Maddie here. Thank you so much for coming back or coming for the first time to my channel where we rant and rave and talk about all things books. Things to know about this channel is our kind of standard template is we talk usually about cutesy, fun, good reads that have this thing called the Maddie Guarantee, which means at the end of your book, you may go through turmoil. There may be some rough things that happen around you, but at the end of the book, your couple, your main people will be both alive and together. That's the Maddie Guarantee. Not guaranteeing that there won't be sad things or rough things along the way, but the ending will be a happy one. Very on par with that, I guess. This week, we're talking about Second Chance Summer by Morgan Matson. Before we start talking, let's read the synopsis so that we can talk about it without feeling like I need to give you the plot of the whole book. Second Chance Summer by Morgan Matson. Sandwiched between two exceptional siblings, Taylor Edwards never felt like she stood out, except for her history of running away when things got too complicated. Then her dad receives unexpected, terrible news, and the family makes the last-minute decision to spend the summer together in the cramped quarters at their old lake house. Taylor hasn't been to the summer house since she was 12, and she definitely never planned on going back. Up at the lake, she is confronted with people she thought she had left behind, like her former best friend Lucy, and Henry Crosby, her first crush, who's all grown up and a lot cuter. Suddenly, Taylor is surrounded by memories she'd rather leave in the past, but she can't run away this time. As the days lying on the beach pass into nights gazing at the stars, Taylor realizes she has a second chance. With friends, with family, maybe even with love. But she knows that once the summer ends, there is no way to recapture what she stands to lose. From Morgan Matson, the author of Amy and Roger's Epic Detour, this is a remarkable new novel with hope in the face of heartbreaking grief. So I decided to talk about this book for a couple of reasons. The very easy basic one is Second Chance Summer, and we are now getting into the summer months. I know in some places it's not hot yet, but I live in Texas and it is very humid, and we've been getting some semi-nice weather. Actually, Mother's Day was last weekend, and we actually got some really nice weather, and it was very pleasant. But that is very quickly coming to an end, and we are getting into our very hot, very humid, gross months. Anyway, so Second Chance Summer I wrote it during the summer when I wrote the blog many years ago, and it's a good summer read in my personal opinion. It's also a very good coming of age story. So I also wore one of my camp shirts from when I was a camp counselor. I love being camp counselor, and while there is not a camp in this book, I equate the two with summer. Summer and camp just go together. That's why we picked this book, was mainly because it's a summer. I feel like it's a good summer read, and it's summertime. No matter where you are, we're getting into summertime. Okay, maybe I'm a little bit early, but not too much early. So Second Chance Summer. This book, I love this book. So many things about it have stuck with me because there are so many coming of age stories. There are loads of figuring out life and love and friends and family. There have been so many novels written, so many movies and TV shows and all these things that for one to, I feel like, stick in your brain makes it maybe an extra good book. That's what I would say. Taylor, our main character, I wouldn't say she necessarily had a falling out with her friends at the lake house, but she was young and immature and didn't know how to handle life and didn't know how to handle just the things she was experiencing, and that turned into the loss of friendship and just the loss of those relationships. And because it happened to her so long ago and for such complicated reasons, she just didn't think they were not necessarily not worth revisiting, but it was just too complicated. It was too hard. It was too nerve-wracking and vulnerable to revisit those places and those people, and it didn't make them any less valuable. It just made it really scary. And I feel like you don't need to be a teenager for that to resonate with you. And that's partially why I like this book so much, as well. It's about teenagers, it's about high schoolers, which can be hard to identify with. It can be really hard to enjoy those books, especially the older you get. I'm now in my 30s, and it's sometimes I look at teenagers and I'm like, I always say the thing I remember most is big emotions. You have really, really big emotions and you don't quite know how to process them. And you still have big emotions as an adult, but you have just a much better handle on how to process them. You understand where they're coming from, you know what to do with them, and you don't let them overwhelm you the way that you did when you were younger. However, those things still exist. For a story to take place during that kind of vulnerable teenage time period and it to still resonate with me as an adult, I feel like that makes it more of like just a human story as opposed to just like a teenage story. And I really like and appreciate that about this book. It resonates you because life is hard. Friendships are hard. Love is hard. Family is hard because we're all different and we're people dealing with other people, and that can be so hard to navigate because expectations are all over the place, and it can be really, really hard to just reconcile not only yourself and your expectations, your wants, desires, and needs, but also other people's expectations and wants and desires and needs, and for them to be able to come together in a way that is compatible can be really, really difficult. And that's how, that's why not everyone is friends with everybody, because you can't reconcile that with some people. But with the people you genuinely care about, some of those things reconcile themselves on their own, and the things that really care, you will kind of make it work because you care about that person, and each person makes up for the differences of the other. Now, for Taylor, the kind of main relationships is a best friend and then a childhood romance. Okay, something I really liked about this book is that it wasn't easily solved. She left for these reasons and she had these big feelings, these big emotions, these big thoughts that she didn't know what to do with. She didn't come back later and be like, oh, it's all water under the bridge, totally solvable, not a big deal. No, she came in still feeling those things, and those other people are still feeling their feelings, and I love that it was not easily solved. It's all solved because this is a Maddie guaranteed book. It all gets solved, it all gets reconciled, those friendships are built up, that romance is built back up, but it's not easily done. Appreciate that, because some of these cute, especially like summer romance books, can be, they just fell back into step like no time had passed, all those differences were, long behind them. I like that. No, they've continued to live life and to grow and have experiences separate from each other, both her friend and her love interest, and they work their way back towards each other and building those relationships back up. And so I really appreciate that about this book. It's not a super small book, like it's not a gigantic book like The Host, but it's not a teeny tiny book either. I want to say probably somewhere around 350 pages, something like that. I just so appreciated that it felt more just like real life and not just like, oh, teenagers or, young love or whatever. No, it felt life can be really hard, and we have people that we care about, and sometimes it takes time to work our way back to them and back to those relationships that do hold a lot of meaning in our life. And I really, really liked that about this book, was that it was relationships worth fighting for. It's friendships worth fighting for. It's people that you love and care for, and knowing that you have your differences and wanting to work past them. So I really appreciated that about this book. I really like that about this book. And it all takes place, at the lake house during the summer. They've got, like the snack shack, and they have all these summer events and fireworks and all those things. And so it's a really fun backdrop for all these things to be taking place. Just the nostalgia of summer and, being in the sun and looking at the stars at night and just being with friends and riding bikes into town and all these things that we kind of equate with like the summer teenage experience. You get all of that. So it's super nostalgic as an adult for just, I want to say, a simpler time, and it's simpler in some aspects and not in other aspects, but just a time where you could devote your time and energy to building these relationships up. Because as you get to an adult, we don't get summer break unless you're things like a teacher. But I don't get summer break. What I'm doing now, I'll be doing a month from now, and then a month from then, and then a month later, and then another month later. And my way work continues to go. I don't get those kinds of breaks where I can just sit and work on friendships or, passions or hobbies or whatever you want to say. And so it's got that good kind of nostalgia kick in there that I really, really like and really enjoyed being able to reread about a time being like, oh yeah, I remember when all I had to do was just kind of exist in the world. I didn't really have school and definitely didn't have work. I could just hang out with friends and sleep in and read books. And I love that time. I miss that time. But I also understand that growing old is inevitable. And so those things are just going to happen. That kind of leads into, I have two more things I really want to talk about. We'll get back to the progression of time in a second. But the first one I want to talk about is the just adorableness of the childhood romance trope that we get in this book. Because while some time has passed since her and Henry were together, this is a relationship that took a lot more building up to get back to where it was. The friendship was a kind of a quicker pickup, because it's not that the emotions are simpler, but there's less facets to it. So it makes it a little bit easier to pick up than a romance where you're kind of giving a lot more of yourself to that person, and you're giving a lot more of yourself to a singular person as opposed to being like one of your many friends. But I love childhood romance tropes. I think they're adorable. While not super practical in the real world, because you change a lot. I think that's the biggest thing that's what makes childhood romance tropes the least realistic, is you change just so much as an adult. And I've said this to many people, but it's a conversation I've had with especially my mom many times, that I had one pretty serious boyfriend in high school, and while he was a great guy, and we ended mainly because we were going to different colleges and very different places. I would say that's the main reason we broke up. I always say if I had married the person I thought I loved at 18, it definitely wouldn't be as successful as the man that I married at 25. And literally nothing against that person. We grew up and we changed and we were different. And so with childhood romance tropes, or childhood best friend trope, it's very cute, this idea of this person knowing you for so long and maybe knowing your family for so long. That's a great idea, but it's just not super practical. And maybe that's why we like it so much. I feel like the tropes we like a lot are the ones that aren't maybe the most realistic, because the most realistic isn't very interesting, but they're realistic. I do just love that idea of this person that's known you for so long, and this person that's been with you through all of these life circumstances. Because like I had some really rough things happen in high school that boyfriend was with me for and helped me work through. You can't devalue that. This person has gone with you through these really hard life circumstances, that they've helped you, that they've been part of your growth process. And those are the childhood romances that last, are the ones that they grow with you through those moments, as opposed to we're both growing, but not necessarily growing together. But no, this is we're going through life together, we're growing together. And that's the people that are able to stay together. And in my blog, I talk about this. And most of the people I know met their spouse in college. Not all, but almost all of my friends married someone they met in college. One of the exceptions that I love that this is a thing that has happened and existed in the world is one of my high school best friends married her high school sweetheart, and they now have, I think, 3 kids together, which is so awesome and incredible that they were able to be this couple that they've not only known each other for so long, but they dated, they went through college, they've gone through not just college, but like even higher education. She's a physical therapist, if I'm remembering correctly. And so they've been through many life stages together, including deaths and moves and all of these things, really, really, really difficult stuff. And, I only know what gets posted on Facebook, with a little bit of exception, but I mostly just can see what they put out into the world. So I can't even imagine all those other things that they've done together and grown together, and how beautiful and incredible that is, that they are able to be one of those couples that's been together for so long. While the trope isn't the most realistic, it is possible, and it is incredible when it does happen. So I love their romance in that they slowly work their way back to each other. And finally, I was talking about the progression of time and this reconciliation, and that time doesn't stop. And kind of the big overarching conflict's not the right word, issue, I guess, of the book is that her father has been diagnosed with an illness. That's why they go back, is because they're kind of trying to live out his last days as best as possible. And I said this on my blog, and it's very true. Because of the premise of this book, it's going to make you cry. The end is going to make you cry. Like that's just going to happen. And I stopped like 30 or 40 pages short when I was reading it, because at the time I was reading it at work, because this is when I was a receptionist. And I stopped the book when I knew it was still safe, but that there wasn't much book left, so I could read it at home, so I could cry at home. So this book will make you cry, which I feel like is not shocking. It's difficult, but it's real. And again, I think this goes all the way back to the fact this book still resonates with me, even though it's about a high schooler and it's a high schooler's, life, existence, relationships, whatever. It resonates so profoundly because it is so relatable. It's relatable, of losing friends and coming back to friends, of kind of having conflict within family, but then resolving those things and knowing that there's bigger things at play and more important things than maybe these little tiffs that you have. Yeah, this idea that time moves ever onward and there's nothing you can do to stop it, but you can make the choices to live that life to the fullest, to make the most of your circumstances, both good and bad, because there's lots of bad in this world that you kind of have to just get through. And there's lots of good that you get to cherish and go through and exist through and be filled up by. And so just this reminder that, yeah, there's good and there's bad, and all of it is worth living through to kind of not just get to the next good thing, but it's all worth living through, knowing that there's a possibility of just more good, around the next corner, over the horizon, whatever cliche you want to use. there is always the potential for good, so long as you are continuing to live your life to the best of your ability, whatever your life circumstances may be. There's always the potential for good. And I feel like that's part of a good coming of age story, is that life is hard, but it's so worth living. That's what I have for this week. I hope y'all have some super fun summer plans. My husband and I are going to church camp again with our kids. It's one of the most exhausting things in the world, but I'm so excited. I absolutely love doing it. And we've got some other plans, and I'm excited for summer, and I hope you're also excited for your summer. I hope you have a great time. Hope you don't get sunburnt. Don't get sunburned. Make sure you wear sunscreen, drink lots of water. We don't want any heat strokes out here. So with all of that, I hope you have a great rest of your day. I hope you have a great night, a great week, great weekend, great month, great year. I hope you have all the greats because you're truly worthy and deserving of them. So until next time, 再见. Bye.